If you have worked all your life to be more secure financially, especially as you get on in years, it can be very frustrating to think that you have to give up everything you've worked for all your life in order to qualify for benefits. There's another way. Hi, I'm attorney Michael Potter, and my practice focuses on working with seniors to help them qualify for both veterans benefits and for Medicaid benefits in a manner that you may not have heard of before. We can show you how to qualify without becoming impoverished. Now, whether you are single or married, there are guidelines to be followed with respect to qualifying for Medicaid. And we're going to take a look at how each of these can affect you. Now, it's worth mentioning right up front that timing can be crucial. It's been said that timing is the difference between a hero and a fool. And when it comes to planning for something like long-term care, you want to get ahead of it and make time work in your favor. Now, several years ago, Medicaid changed the rules, and they imposed what is known as a 5-year look-back period, allowing the authorities in your state to look back 5 years prior to the Medicaid application to see what kind of transfers you may have made. Now, certainly, gifting strategies can be employed to diminish the amount of the applicant's assets, but because of the 5-year window, things need to be done ahead of time so that the 5-year window does not interfere with the ability to create a third-party trust. So does that limit our choices? No, it doesn't. It all depends on the timing that you use when you establish your strategies to qualify for Medicaid and to do it in a manner that satisfies your state requirements. The good news is you can plan around the 5-year look-back window, but timing is important and you've got to do it within the parameters of your state's Medicaid guidelines, because by doing it in the right way and following the guidelines, you'll be fine for Medicaid qualification. Now, there are transfers you can make prior to that 5-year window that'll certainly work just fine. And there are some transfers you can make within the 5-year look-back that will not necessarily result in periods of ineligibility. Let's take one of the primary assets as an example. The home of a single person is considered exempt from Medicaid for a certain period of time. And for a married couple, as long as the spouse that is not in a nursing home continues to reside in the home will be exempt as long as the well spouse lives in the home while the other spouse is on Medicaid and in a nursing home. For example, if the senior is either a veteran or the widow of a veteran, there are certain benefits we can get for them that are tax-free and would allow them to provide for a caregiver or assisted living facility that allows them to enjoy their senior years to the maximum degree possible. Now, for those of you who have a senior member of your family that's a veteran or a widow of a veteran, we cover that under a special separate segment, and I hope you'll take a look at that or get in touch with me for further information. On the other hand, if we're dealing with a senior in a family that is not a veteran or is not the widow of a veteran, then we have some other options we can choose from, including the use of certain types of trusts, Medicaid compliant annuities, and certain expenditures that will allow for qualification under Medicaid. Now, there are certain things that you can do in the area of pre-need planning so that you can spend down funds in such a fashion that still qualifies you for Medicaid. As an example, you can buy a burial plot. You can enter into a funeral contract prior to the need and spend money on that. Those are both perfectly acceptable. You can also make improvements to the home that make the home more comfortable, such as ramps for wheelchair accessibility, a need for a specially equipped van that you might need, especially with a wheelchair. Maybe the doors need to be widened in your home. Maybe the bathrooms need to be specially fitted. These are things that are perfectly acceptable for you to spend money on that will not hurt you when it comes to planning for Medicaid eligibility. Now, probably the most powerful of all of the strategies for Medicaid qualification is the use of the Medicaid Asset Protection Trust. Now, there are two different approaches to the Medicaid Asset Protection Trust. One of them is called the self-settled trust, where you are the grantor, and the other is a third-party irrevocable Medicaid trust, where a third party, possibly your children, establish it for you. Now, under the terms of the Medicaid Asset Protection Trust, you transfer assets to that trust in an irrevocable fashion such that you cannot have access to the principal, but the income of the trust can be paid to you over a period of time. Now, you alone are going to be responsible for selecting a trustee. And I would suggest, of course, that you pick a trustee with whom you are comfortable, one that has the integrity to follow the terms of the trust and have your best interests at heart. Now, in addition to the primary trustee, it's often wise to have a backup. I typically recommend that clients choose a second choice and a third choice just in case. That way, if something happens to your first choice of trustee, you can always go to the backup or successor trustee, even to a third party, if that's what's necessary to achieve your objectives and keep you qualified for the benefit you're entitled to. You can also enter into a Medicaid compliant annuity. Now, not all annuities are Medicaid compliant. There are special rules that apply to them. But if you acquire a Medicaid compliant annuity, this allows you to transfer funds outside of your estate in such a fashion that they can be used within the guidelines and you are still eligible for Medicaid. Now, the good news is that the purchase of a Medicaid-compliant annuity by either the Medicaid applicant or the applicant's spouse is not deemed to be a transfer that results in disqualification. And another piece of good news is that the income from such an annuity is not considered to be a countable resource for purposes of Medicaid. Now, because the income of a Medicaid-compliant annuity is not deemed to be countable for purposes of Medicaid, then the income received from this type of an annuity can help you and still allow either a couple or an individual to qualify for Medicaid. Of course, the farther in advance you do this kind of planning, the better off you are, because waiting limits the amount of planning choices you have, and planning in advance allows you far better choices. That's why it's never good to delay planning until a health crisis arrives. You know, the motto of my firm is that planning can make all the difference. I can't tell you the number of times that people have come to me in a crisis. They've waited too long and now something bad has happened and they need to have a quick Band-Aid put on it. But that's the very problem. A Band-Aid might not do the job. So the further in advance you can plan, the better off you are, because planning really does make all the difference. You know, it never hurts to have a private consultation on this matter. And when it comes to planning, as I said before, the farther in advance, the better. But if you're in a crisis situation, there's still some planning that can be done. Let's look at having a private consultation to discuss it. Well, as you can see, the use of the Medicaid Asset Protection Trust in combination with other strategies, such as the spend-down strategies and the use of a Medicaid-compliant annuity, can be very powerful. Timing is important, and the further in advance we can do this, the better off you are. If you wait until a healthcare crisis erupts, it severely limits the choices and range of options that you have. Now, I'm sure you have some questions, and I'm fine with that. I'd be glad to help you in any way I can. So if you'd like more information, please feel free to get in touch with me, and let's see what we can do to look at your options and see what makes the best sense in your circumstances. I'm attorney Michael Potter, and I look forward to hearing from you.